The National Institute of Mathematical Sciences of Ghana organized International Conference on Scientific Computing and Industrial Modeling on a theme, a tool for accelerating innovation.
In the past years, the local industry has generated demand for research and innovation in order to be competitive and access both local and international markets and in order to grow. We also know that new entrepreneurs and demanding technologies and solutions and innovations have created new markets and new businesses. New demands have resulted in various public-private partnerships between industry and university departments. And if you go to electrical department, they will be working with maybe VRA or electricity company. If you go to civil engineering, they'll be working with a number of manufacturing companies. It's like that. If you go to computer science, these demands have been coming to the university. So it means we've moved a step forward.
The NIMS conference is taking place at the IDL Conference Center in KNUST from 27th November to 1st December 2017. The chairman for the conference gave a welcome address on the first day.
That's how they say it. The theme of this conference is Scientific Computing and Industrial Modeling, a tool for accelerating innovation.
Ejako Nimo and Adedemu Group gave some musical interlude. Some of the postgraduate students gave a wonderful presentation.
Some of us are wondering what life may be after retirement. Sometimes we think that death is the only solution. Yes, but in my case, I want to know what will cater for these investigations. I'm going to present on heterogeneity. And a mixture of populations with different characteristics is what we call as heterogeneity. Their characteristics and differential. When I say differential, not with respect to time. Yes. So we have 4 characteristics: age at entry, working experience, total income, and retirement status. Working experience is the same as employment duration. This study was conducted using the data from Senate. It's a 23.5-year period from 1990 to 2014. These methods were used. It's unfortunate I'm not going to talk about them so rigorously because I'm here to discuss my results, not methodologies. Those who retired early are 6,215, and then those who retired normally and were alive were 9,279, as compared to these two numbers who were dead as at 2014. I performed the correlation analysis using the Pearson test, and then we could see that early retirees and normal retirees, they have significant correlation between time to death. For time to death is the main outcome of my work. As in, after retirement, the years to spend before you die. If you are lucky, you spend more years, and then the opportunity.
NIMS is a center for development and training of young mathematical scientists in postgraduate studies and aims at establishing state-of-the-art and cutting-edge postgraduate research program that exposes students to modernized technologies and concepts in the areas of pure and applied mathematics, computational mathematics, theoretical physics, petroleum resource modeling, and climate science.
They are very useful in our everyday lives. For example, is the interest portion that we take from loans. Also, the daily or the list of daily maximum temperatures. I use fear period, for example, because I stayed at that place. And then even in probability theory, the set of numbers generated by if one wants to get a win on, let's say, an nth row, is generated by that sequence, that is A and B equal to the probability that the person will lose, then raised to the power n minus 1 times the probability that the person can win that true. And then when it goes to the world of real estate, let's say we hire someone to build a pyramidal tower so that we can put our poly tank on it. And then we want the lower bottom to have 17 blocks, and then each block will be 2 blocks fewer than the previous one. So we can generate these sequences, and then we can know the total number of blocks that we need in that building of the pyramidal tower, and then the number of blocks that will be at the last row. And also in banking, let's say we want to go from we deposit an amount of 1,300 Ghana cedis, offering 27% annual interest, compounded package. And then this money, we generated it, or we deposited it as a seed money for our 8-year-old daughter's university education. So to determine how much the account will value after 17 years, we can also generate these things using a sequence. And then this is how we can generate these sequences. Also, for population management, I also use Mantukwa in Ghana million. Let's say if we want to find how much the number of people in Mantukwa will grow in the next 5 years, we use the annual rate of 15% to generate, or to find the number, that is the interval and then the total population in the next 5 years. But now, the problem statement is that in spite of the numerous application of sequences, a sequence may not serve its limiting value, or may not serve its purpose if the limiting value does not exist. And this also goes in for continuity, differentiability, and then integration. So now, the class of sequence that we are talking about is the bounded sequence. And then a sequence is bounded if it is both bounded above and then bounded below. And then a bounded sequence, a sequence may have more than one bounded value. Let's say the set of natural numbers is bounded by 1. But if the sequence starts from 2, 2 can be the lower bound for the sequence, and then 1 can also be the lower bound for the sequence. But 2 will be the infimum for the sequence, and then 1 will be the 1, and then 2 will be the infimum of the sequence. So now the objective of this research is to find out whether every bounded sequence in R converges. And then if that's not so, then we come out with a permissible criterion for the convergence of a bounded sequence. So as I stated earlier, these two sequences on the screen are bounded, but they do not converge. So now, what makes, or what's the criterion for a bounded sequence to converge? Well, the first one is, we look at some lemmas. In mathematics, lemmas are like tools that are used for proving theorems. So we look at this lemma, and it states that if we have a sequence of natural numbers, an increasing sequence, being it monotonic increasing or strictly increasing, is still an increasing sequence. So if this sequence is increasing, and then it's a set of natural numbers, then that means the sequence, the terms of the sequence, are always greater than or equal to the index of the sequence. And then we prove this.
To show us how ENF applies in the examples, and you gave your problem statement and everything, but I didn't really see how ENF, soup, boundedness, convergence, Bosano, bias, how all of that come into play in the examples that you gave. Can you please do me that now? Thank you.
Okay, please, they are all in the big thesis. And then the main purpose of the thesis is to create a convergence criterion for a bounded sequence. Okay. A criterion that a bounded sequence is supposed to follow so that it will converge. Even though we know that sequences are applied in all these areas, but they can't, or they are not useful if they do not converge. So really we're trying to see the criterion that this sequence will pass through to converge.
As a first set of my research work, I'm looking at ball-pole boundary conditions. Boundary conditions can tell you the successfulness or the unsuccessfulness of your simulation or your computation. I remember yesterday Uber made emphasize on that when he was presenting that he had a problem with the boundary conditions, all that. So, in a simple way, I can say boundary conditions have something. I can't emphasize on that enough, but then it has difficulties when it comes to the right derivation. This is my overview. I have an introduction, the model representation. In there, I have the sub-critical flow, super-critical flow, and a tall proof of work with the list. I will stop that when you tell me that stuff. And the conclusion. We all know that blood is a natural occurrence where water finds its way into a dry land. It's a global phenomenon that causes casualties and poverty loss in every continent. In this country, we encounter a lot of blood issues. And that has been a motivation for this research work. There's a picture there I took from my journal online, which is some flood happening in Tema. I think I know a lady living in the area. She's right there. We are happy she's here with us. Throughout human history, there have been constant endeavors to understand, assess, and predict flood events and their impacts. Flood inundation models serve this kind of purpose for us, and it's defined as the art of quantifying or quantitatively describing the characteristics and the evolution of flood. The flow that's set up in a large area. Well, the aim of flood modeling is actually to develop a mathematical framework that numerically implement into a code and simulate the characteristics of flood or the flow. These are the three main areas that literature classified as the models defining flood. We have the empirical method, we have the simplified method, and that of the hydrodynamic method. The empirical method is basically data-driven model, where we use time series to analyze flood or flood issues. The hydrodynamics has to do with the physical-based method, where we use the conservation of mass and that of conservation of momentum. The other one is simplified, which is not this is method, has to sit between the two of them. By this research, we're looking at the area of the hydrodynamics models, which is one of Navier-Stokes. And I mentioned that name, the name comes to mind. It's very big. Very big. And it was, I think, yesterday. But today, it has its simplified form. Its simplified form is the shallow water, which is just a depth averaging method or procedure of the Navier-Stokes. Literature mostly we mostly model flood flow using the Navier-Stokes. And I would like to description of what really happened on the ground. Now, there are two kinds of flow that we would like to look at. We have a subcritical flow and supercritical flow. I'm sure you all have seen something like this in our application where when you open the faucet, this kind of phenomenon happens. What is happening here, what we see here is the kind of flow we call the supercritical flow. What's happening after this kind of curve is what's happening all here is the supercritical flow. The difference between them is that one is faster and one is slower. What's happening on this curve is what we call the hydraulic jump, or in some terms we call it the shock wave. And when you are modeling, you all have to consider that as a factor. Now, as a toy case, we take a 2D, we take a 1D model to see how the flow or how we can come up with what a 1D or D.
Yeah, 2D.
So what we have here is a flow from, it can be from anywhere. But under subcritical flow, we can see that we have two inflows and two outflows. Meaning that when you have an inflow, it means that you have to set a boundary conditions on that phase. When you have an outflow, you don't need because the flow naturally goes from what? A new flow to the left. So when you set the boundary condition, you're going to get a multiple function or multiple solution of what? Which is not what we want. That's what's happening here. And that's what the super critical flow is. Two inflows and two outflows. But then the inflow is happening on what? The x equals 0. Now, we would like to also prove forward what would the level of flow. Not only that, we want to look forward the boundary condition. We have to also prove whether the boundary condition means something to the model. So we will use the energy method using another kind of mathematical technique to prove what within of the problem. Now later we look at the simulation results of it. We will look at we come up with a high order accurate scheme to predict the solution and also prove that the solution is stable, which is something very important because under Lax equivalent theorem, if you have a stable scheme, it leads to convergence. So if you don't prove whether your scheme is stable, there's no way you can talk about or give a concrete result. And then the other thing we'd like to look at is, that would be the following, is the moving boundary condition. When there's a flow, naturally there will be a kind of moving boundary. And that's also something that we want to model. Look into that. Well, basically, this is something I want to leave with colleagues. Before worrying about digitization, make sure you understand the mathematical problem. If the aggregate is equal, small amount of numerical cleverness will lead to some complication. This person may seem too obvious to the staff and to dimension, but it is surprising how often it is really forgotten. And these are my references, and that is. Thank you.
Will leave most of the oil in the underground. So that's why fractures pose a significant challenge to the modeling. And let me add to that, this has been simulations on a cluster of high-performance computers, and these simulations been running for quite a while because of the required high resolution of to map the fracture network. So this is absolutely not a practical approach if we are talking about industrial applications. So we need to simplify that problem to capture the essential dynamics and in order to plan engineering strategies on whatever application we are interested in here. And of course, this problem has been identified for a while. And even 50 years ago, people started conceptualizing a fractured porous medium. So instead of going into the details of the physical geometry, we started idealizing that in sort of a sugar cube model where we have regular void space of fractures that are separating individual matrix blocks. And if we now want to model that, use this conceptual representation to model the fracture pattern, we identify a medium of fractures and a medium of matrices, and then we will let these two mediums interact through transferring mass depending on the physical processes at hand. And now, looking at the equations, we will have the standard mass conservation equation, and we will add a transfer term here that now represents all the interesting physics that make fluids pass from the highly conductive fractures. And the two main questions pop up. do we actually get the CO2 into the matrix? Because that's where most of the volume sits, so that's where we can achieve safe CO2 storage. And can we control the migration of the CO2 plume? So now we can go back to our conceptual representation, and we are now facing the challenge: how can we formulate appropriate transfer functions that represent the processes that deal with the fracture matrix transfer? And we've been exploring the use of analytical solutions and revise our understanding of the matrix fracture transfer accordingly. And this is again where mathematics this is a perfect example where mathematics can help us in achieving a substantial improvement in the understanding of the overall system and hence in engineering design. Does it really matter? So I'm showing here two different simulation runs. With on the left you see a simulation run with our new model that I will introduce on the next few slides. And to the right, you'll see the state-of-the-art of that is used in commercial simulators, for example. In the top line, you see in color-coded the amount of CO2 in the fractures. And at the bottom, you see color-coded again, yellow representing the CO2 in the matrix rock. And these are snapshots after 40 years of injection. And then I have some snapshots after 120 years of injection. And the question now is, does that actually matter? Well, we see the spread of the plume is not so substantially different. However, the amount of CO2 that we were able to store in the matrix differs by 0.4 megaton of CO2 per year. Now, does that matter? Well, it does matter in that context because overall we are injecting 1 megaton per year. So this is a difference in 40%. So how do we get, what physical process brings the CO2 into the matrix? And well, CO2, even in its supercritical state, which is usually used to inject, when injected in a formation for storage, is substantially lighter than brine. So we get a buoyant drive, and that will induce a displacement of the resident brine in the matrix and displace or lead to a displacement of the CO2 of the brine in the matrix with CO2. And then at some point we will stop the injection, and then buoyancy brings CO2 to the top of the imbibition and to the top of the reservoir, and re-imbibition may happen. So this is then a different physical process. So with this idealization, we can run simulations on the solid lines are our reference solution, the dashed lines are our model, and the dotted and dash dotted curves are state-of-the-art from the literature, and color-coded are different different parameters. So, how much more time do I have, Chairman? Right. 5 minutes? Okay, let me go then and apply this to a sort of realistic structure and see whether it matters in a quantitative setting. So we tend to want to store CO2 in anticline structures with an impermeable layer on top so that the CO2 doesn't migrate up again to the surface. And we know that from oil and gas, that's where we tend to find hydrocarbons. And we can then start injecting CO2 in the center of our anticline and see what happens if we suddenly observe that even though we thought the reservoir is not fractured, there might be fracture present, and whether that is any detrimental for our CO2 storage project. And in the left bottom, you see the CO2 distribution color-coded for the unfractured case, and then on the top, we see the CO2 bloom in the fractures, and we see the CO2 bloom in the matrix. And what we immediately observe is that the CO2 fills the anticline much more evenly because the fractures are way more permeable than the rock matrix, and hence it moves much faster up in the reservoir and spreads over the lateral. Now that means that the CO2 can actually escape here at the edges. And this is something that we want to avoid, because that means we lose control over CO2, and that might lead to contamination of neighboring potable aquifers or detrimental effects if we have a gas reservoir next to it. And what we see here is the mass of CO2 in our system illustrated over time. And we see in blue the unfractured model. So we inject for 1,000 days and stop injecting them. And then in the fractured case, we can now look at the amount of CO2 in the system. That's our red curve, and we can see the amount of CO2 in our matrix. That's the dashed curve, and in our fracture system, that's the lower curve here. And we see that CO2 starts to migrate out of our fractured reservoirs.
On the last day, there was discussion with academia and some industry players to find solutions to some of the challenges they face and what the industry wants National Institute for Mathematical Sciences to do for them.
Land administration system. The custodians of the land is the stool. Is the stool. But government normally acquires land for certain activities. And that one is vested in the Lands Commission. So the Lands Commission is there to like be the watchman of government lands. But before it comes to government, it is the chiefs who give it to government. So if by one way or the other, the government is no longer using the land for the purpose for which it was acquired, the land has to go back to the chiefs. That one, there is no controversy about that. The land has to go back to the chiefs. So government, if government acquires a piece of land for a certain purpose, and say the government, for some years now, they maybe due to some financial constraints or so, they couldn't do the project. And so now the government cannot say it is on through its own work, is maybe selling those lands. No, the land has to go back to the chiefs. And so when it comes to land administration, the chiefs or the stool has the ultimate power. And once they say they are taking it, you have very little to say.
Okay. The next question.
This is
more of a contribution. I remember when we started the presentations earlier, this is to my gentleman from Zoom Live. You said something about people struggling, you guys struggling for a number of years with a model for, is it effective distribution or picking up of garbage from households? And somebody presented a model that was about distribution of, bus allocation or shuttle allocation. And I think if it's slightly tweaked to better suit what you're describing, his model would be quite efficient for a project like what you were describing, where you don't have to struggle that much, based on what I saw from his presentation. So I think you guys could communicate, if that is interested in making it about garbage instead of human beings. Thank you.
I think I might have missed that presentation. So if the person presented that can see me after this session, I'll be interested in talking. Okay, then okay. I've already spoken to him. All right. We've already spoken about it.
So my own is also a suggestion, and that goes to the soil research people. So when you were giving your presentation, you talked about that one of the areas that you guys do research work is on climate change and what have you. So I was like, I don't know, but I was wondering how you guys do the research on the climate change when you are experts in soil. So my thinking is, for example, if you come to KNUST, we have meteorology and climate science unit where we train, students are trained. And currently, all the students that are trained there are taken to GMET, and they are now trying to restaff GMET and get all these things done. So even all these weather issues, they have good forecasting that you can think about. And as I tell you, if you go to KNUST now, we can already tell you how rainfall is going to be for next year for farming activities and what have you. All this forecasting can be done. We can give you 5-year forecasts, can give you 1-year forecasts that are done. So what I want to suggest is, with your soil issues and agriculture, if there's a way of collaborating with KNUST to help with these weather issues, I think it would be very nice.
You see, how do we mitigate against the effects of climate change, and how do we adapt to climate change with regards to our agriculture food production? And that is what we are trying to do. So we try to develop technologies that can build on the resilience of the farmers so that they will be well equipped. They will be well equipped to be able to adapt to the ever-changing climatic conditions. So these technologies are more mitigating technologies so that their crops will survive as we move into these harsher environmental conditions. So it's more adaptation and mitigation. Thank you.
So if I understand, is it soil research? Yes, has a problem of maybe coming up with it forward. That is what we want to achieve. Yes.
I want to add up. Soil and climate go together because the soil is at the interface between what is here links up with what's in the atmosphere. So the carbon dioxide we generate from here goes to stay in the climate. And our activities also influence how climate is changing. So what we do also involves, like, we use models to see how much carbon dioxide is being produced, how it will influence global warming, and we do all those things. So we can still collaborate and improve on our models.
Okay.
We already have some of the models we are using, but if we come together with your help, we can improve the models to better predict what's really going
Yeah, thank you. I think in your presentation, okay, then I'll start.
So water quality was one, is that right?
Yes. And I think, unfortunately, there was a presentation I was supposed to do this morning, but unfortunately, it isn't come. What the problem that we are trying to solve is that you have, if we look at the distribution line, so let's say water, okay, in our part of the world, we have a lot of sun, and there's the effect of this heat on the pipelines. So we encounter some losses. Sometimes the water distribution people call it unaccounted for losses. And then you have joints in the lines. They also account for some losses. So there is a mathematical model, okay, that we simulate the heat. So we apply heat onto the pipe, depending on the pipe material, okay, to see how the flow goes through. And there is a model that can be used, it has been proposed and tested. If you want to simulate the flow from here to Wali or whatever, you don't need to simulate the whole pipe, but take a section of it and then do the simulation. The engineers will call it the fully developed flow. You do the simulation, and then whatever results you get is a replica of whatever will happen through the whole pipeline. We know that, for instance, the viscosity or the friction in the fluid is inversely proportional to the discharge. So if you have a pipe or a pump that pumps water through a line, if the liquid is so viscous, then means you are going to need some high energy to pump it through. But if it is less viscous, then it means you require less energy to pump the fluid. So in that part, because our temperatures have effect on the pipe or the flow, the research has shown that we need less higher energy pumps than the standard ones that are used in the Western world. So I think one thing that we have not done as mathematicians is to market our products. So we would, in our discussion or engagement, we'll make that model available, and then we'll see how it can be used for different gas and all the other fluids that flow through pipe. And it's a well-developed model. Some part of it has been published, some part is also on the computer, sitting and resting. So in our engagement, I think we are going to make that available, and then we see where we go from here. Good.
So I think what we'll do is that we look at your mandates,
yeah,
and how you solve these problems. I've seen that you do more of the advocacy and get the chiefs to do all of that, but the quantifiable things that would allow you to do your work well. Like for example, when you go to the chiefs and you are discussing with them that, if you don't protect this area, because Galamsey is easy to see that it's bad. But sometimes it's not about Galamsey at all, but the water there is just not enough because the population there has become larger. So the way people abuse the water, the way they farm around the water bodies can affect. But you need to see that right now, if you don't do it, next 5 years, you get water to drink again. You're supposed to be able to see that 5 years or 3 years or 10 years. But you need the models to predict those values for that will convince them that, hey, if we don't set up what to do the serious work, in this particular quantifiable period, this is what's going to happen. And that figure alone, not your work, just to find out that figure, that's where people like us come in to give you those indicators that you can use to work. Okay, so if you look at what she presented, it was more about the regulations. I think that's what you work on mostly, right? And then the training and advocacy work. So one is the questionnaire, to help them prepare good questionnaires for the training.
Okay.
One is to have models to estimate the amount of water
that's available.
and also treatment methods like the water quality models that we can help them build, so that when they go to the site and they come and put in the parameters, it can give them an idea of the level of contamination in the river and all of that. Yes. So at least 3 things here that we can consider.
Yes, in terms of the challenge with reference to capacity building, I think KNUST run programs in the regional water, environment and sanitation. So maybe you can also tell your colleagues who are interested, there are postgraduate programs that they can also look at it if they want as part of their capacity building.
It's fully funded, I'm sure they are well. Yeah. It's fully funded by World Bank.
Yeah, so this is good news.
Yeah, they are well.
Fully funded. That's what we want to hear. Okay. There was a hand here on water resource. Okay.
Yeah, you were saying something. I just wanted to support that about the modeling of the flowing tubes.
Yeah.
I was also going to say that apart from the viscosity and other things, the gradient of the field is also very important.
Yeah.
And so to maximize profits, you also need to factor that in so that you know where to lay the pipes in order to maximize your profits and reduce costs. So if you know where you want to transport water to, then in the modeling, you can factor all these things in, and then you can be able to reduce costs.
Good.
I'd like to clarify something here. We don't distribute water. We are in charge of the raw water resources. Once it's treated, it's Ghana Water Company. They deal with distribution, piping, and all that. So that's the mix-up that we get all the time. We don't supply potable water. We do making sure that the raw water is in good condition for Ghana Water to treat.
Okay. Still on water resource?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Well, this cuts across with Zoom line, soil science, and water resources. But yes, water resources. I feel your sensitization is a big problem for you. I mean, to the people. After the mathematicians do their work, you need to sensitize the people. I think you need communication design. That's what I feel you need. If it could be an internal media house that handles that.
We have that. We have a public relations department. We have a communication strategy.
Communication design. I mean, if you have a communication design, I understand what you're saying, but how you package the information and send it to the people, you need people who design, know how people in the group at a particular area behave, and then they design a particular information for them.
The media will normally train for that.
Okay.
Unless you think they're not doing well.
Yeah, well, I mean, from the look of things, I felt the sensitization wasn't.
Okay.
It's a problem. So, if you could look at that.
Okay.
Again.
Okay. So, have we
planting of mangrove along the water bodies? It absorbs. It also prevents contamination of the water bodies itself. So, per study we conducted at Senabreku, the water bodies along the coastal plains were contaminated, and by the planting of mangroves, it helped resolve the issues.
I think there's a unit in your group that does recovery, don't it?
Yes.
Yes, so they do this.
For instance, if you're doing something, we get funding either from international agencies like FAO. So if maybe we are collaborating with you and we need a specific thing, then they will provide funds to provide site-specific models as we've been talking about. So if we are collaborating together, then it will not just be for free or that we are not paying, but funds will come from international institutions for you to support us with certain things.
Shall we move to the Edu?
First, you sell products. So one of the things you do is advertisement. I know some of you are going to laugh, but we have a gossip theory. Maybe we can experiment that, I don't know, to see how you can do market research a bit. That's on the lighter side. Since you said you are interested in exploring new ideas, what I've seen over the years is that many people have fixed size of blocks, and that's how everyone uses. But if you bring a Chinese company, as you will be aware, they manufacture their blocks from China. It's heavy, it's bigger and lighter than any block in Ghana with similar materials. And you know that when you're putting down taller buildings, your structure must be lighter. Except we will fill up everything So you may need to look at, but it's because you've done experiments to look at the strength of these materials as equivalent material for, the block that works, but sometimes it will be too heavy. So we need to do experiments with you, and we may need to join hands with some, especially civil engineers, and then we'll do some calculations for you to come up with innovative blocks, for example, with different shapes and sizes for different purposes. When people get there, they may be tempted to be specific about the block, but if they know you have different classes of block, the same way the cement people have come up with different cements, and the same way you should do it. Then people can come to you and buy these different classes of blocks. So we can look at geometry, like I mentioned before, and look at different shapes and different mixes. And we have automation techniques that can say, well, if you took sand of this amount and cement of that and water of that, it can produce the same strength as you change the parameters. So since you know that cement is more expensive than maybe quarry dust or quarry dust more than sand, you can organize those mixes and get the same strength at a cheaper cost. This is something you can simulate for several parameters, and maybe on a cluster, and over time we'll be able to tell you that, well, these are the possible mixes for different sizes based on this strength. And then you can make some more money, maybe give us some at the end. Yes. So that's on the blocks part. Then some of your problems were just a mechanical problem. We are probably not following the standard, because if you are going to buy a vehicle, then you should buy the vehicle with the necessary gadgets attached to them. And you see that vehicle, normal trailer with the you should get, if you are buying one, you must not just buy that type, so that it can carry the blocks. And when you do your blocks, you put them in your pallets, but you don't just leave them on and pack them. After a number, they will break. It will just lose the tension and break. So we can even calculate for you with some small experiments how many levels you can pack for different type of strength, so that you don't have to add more to it. When you get to that point, you will put them in a box, and then you use your lift to arrange them wherever you go to, and then you just like that. So these are mechanical issues that with a very little mathematics, not much, you should be able to solve those breaking things. But you would need, I'm very sure about it, that you need a software that actually automates your block making processes. I'll give you an example of a real level. You must know it's like anyone selling drugs, or the things you do, they expire. So you have to make sure that any time when you have something in stock, doesn't matter how complicated it is, there should be a way to tell you that, well, based on the demands that have been coming, it is better to have just 100 blocks in stock than to do 200 and get 50 of them breaking down. It's an economic model, but that's something we can. Anytime you are doing like storage, it goes with it. It's called a real level. You need to calculate to know when you should produce or buy more into your stock. And this is easier when it's built into your because if you want, you can set up a series of them projects that builds into a block making factory application that understands it the way you want it as your own innovations. So you can talk to your management, and if you want, we can give you models, but I don't know how you can interpret them. But the best way is to provide tools for you that you just have to, you don't have to worry about them at all. You don't have to generate the problems for us to fix. And we should be able to engage with you and help you deal with these problems. So we talk to them and let's see. But it has to be a management decision.
But we are going there after this session, so that is not a
yes.
This challenge. We'll come over.
Yeah. So I don't want to steal all the time, but I can anticipate that these are the problems that it will come with all these sort of models that you've been hearing around. They appear there. Okay, they appear in your, mostly it's all some optimization methods or models that you will use to optimize the way you work. But you have to fit it into some software. That's what I have to do. I'm sure maybe others have additional comments.
Okay, thank you very much. With the breakages of the block due to over-dryness, I don't know how to put it technically, but perhaps because you have exposed it to radiation, I feel that our brother Joshua can help because
Tech TV News team interacted with some of the participants from other universities and lecturers.
I want to interview someone who was a participant to just find his views about the program. Please, can you introduce yourself to us and tell us what you learned so far?
My name is Tor Sørvik. I'm a professor at the University of Bergen in Norway. I have been a couple of times before here at KN University, visiting the NIMS, and I find it a very interesting, very encouraging environment to be in.
I see.
And this time I also had the opportunity to give a talk here at your conference, which was fun, interesting.
What was the talk about?
My talk was about the mathematics of solar panels. So I thought that could be a topic of interest here. And we actually, background for it is that we have already established a little project, ongoing project between my university at home and NIMS here in Ghana.
What were your expectations actually, and were you able to meet those expectations, or you were not able to meet them?
I'm not quite sure. I mean, I had the most scientific part of the program is the thing I was most interested in and know much more about. I must just confess, I don't know that much about Ghana, the Ghanaian society and Ghanaian businesses and so on. So this was happening today about the more business talk. That's not for me to judge anything about. But the scientific part of it, I found very interesting. And it gives me a good view of what you are doing.
Oh, okay. Can you introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Jeremiah Obobi. Well, I'm not with NIMS. I'm not a mathematics student actually, but I'm from the College of Art. I'm doing my master's in fine art, jewelry and metalsmithing. And then I came to this conference in order to see kind of like bridge the gap between the mathematicians who do all these simulations, and then sometimes we don't really understand. But we as designers, we as creative people, there's a point whereby these math guys leave off an information whereby we are supposed to pick from there and create something that will be user friendly. So it is like one of the speakers said, the world is more interdependent now. And so we can't really be in the dark, or kind of like, we can't be, like, it's unfortunate how the university is actually structured. Like, you have the arts there, and then the engineering there, and materials there. I feel we have to actually come together to be able to bridge the gap, exactly, because where mathematics stops or where it ends with their findings and everything, that's when we have to come in and make it, package it well for the people. So basically, I think this is really good. It's unfortunate that I think I'm the only art student here.
Well, I don't think so.
No. I'm still looking for
an art student.
Yeah, I mean, a design student, product design, industrial design. But I mean, it's all good. This is an eye-opener. I can also tell my friends and of course my lecturers that we're not able to come. So this is a good thing.
Okay, in the first place, my name is Dr. Peter Rumaka. I'm from the mathematics department and an integral part of NIMS. What we sought to achieve in this conference was to bring industry close together with academia and to be able to share ideas and to address the challenges facing industry and then academia. So it's like a symbiotic affair. Industry will benefit from academia, and academia too also benefits from industry in the form of getting our students trained and in the form of getting problems from industry for our students to practice on. So that was the main idea. Previously, we have realized that it's like industry sits on its own and academia also does its own thing. But we know that what we are producing, okay, our products, they are used by the industry. So as to answer the question as to whether what we produce, our products, are of good quality or use to industry, we have to come together and then be able to mingle, judge, and in the end, even in the design of our curricula, we have to get inputs from industry to be able to design our curricula to meet the needs of industry. So in summary, that is the whole idea of this conference. From now, we'll go back to the last session where the problems and then the presentations that we have gotten here, we are going to go into them and then gather as many problems or challenges that are facing industry and then solutions that we have as institutions or as university. You know, when we say NIMS comprises all the institutions, the public institutions in Ghana. So we have reps from all the sister universities and we are going to dialogue, okay, to be able to identify challenges. If we cannot solve them here, we give ourselves 6 months, we'll reconvene and then continue the dialogue. We will start the problems today. Those we cannot solve, those we have solved, we give our solutions to industry. And that is how we are going to go about.
Okay, so let me ask this last question. Doc, please, do you think mathematics can solve every problem
As far as I'm concerned, every problem has a mathematical dimension. Yes, I am a mathematician. If you speak English to me, I convert it to variables. And these variables solve.
I happen to have with me here one of the organizers for this program, or should I say she's part of the organizing team. Can you kindly introduce yourself to us?
Hi, my name is Phoebe Mawena Afi-Havo, and I'm currently a graduate student with the National Institute for Mathematical Sciences.
Okay, since you are part of the organizers, can you tell us something small about why you guys thought about bringing up such a program? Can you just tell us something little?
Okay, well, the need for industries to get into more research and also into more, contact with academia has been on the increase and been on the rise for quite some time. And as a result, we saw it as a need to be able to, we as a body of scientific computing and industrial modeling people, to be able to come out and let's see what we can offer to them. So we are trying to offer them the innovation, the prototyping, the design, and helping them to be able to solve their problems. So that is the whole thing. So that's the whole idea behind this conference. And we seek to go more and further in this venture.
Here.
Okay, what brought you here? All the way from Sinyani, what brought you here?
Okay, I just completed this year of mathematics. So a friend of mine came to this conference. I had to register since it was talking about scientific computing and then industrial models. I was interested in I registered.
What course do you offer to you?
I did BSc. So
okay.
I'm doing my national service as a teacher.
Okay, you're a teaching assistant. So is it because you did maths, that's why you came for the program? What exactly did you hear? Or what were your expectations from the program? And were you able to meet it? Since today is the last day, were you able to meet your expectations or you're a little bit disappointed that one or two things that happened?
Actually, I met my expectations because maths, as we learned in school, and has always been in classroom and in the theories and the formulas all over. But here we think that we are using our maths to solve industrial problems, which is really real. So the maths that we learned has been brought to a real, it's using to solve a real problem. So now it has changed some thoughts that maths is not really the classroom work that we always used to.
If you want to subscribe, you can subscribe to techtvonline.com. I'm Michael Dainty, your presenter for today.